because, it'll kill all the bugs if they don't have a refuge, and they'll also get immunity. So this is corn for humans that grow a natural pesticide, but many times stronger. But you can't have the bugs eating it. So they have to have refuges from their own corn. And I mean, how many studies have been out all over the world, big prestigious ones, where you feed it to rodents, guinea pigs, you name it, 3 generations, they're sterile. I mean, Smith covers it in his books with all the scientists. So yeah, now he's got farmers talking about stinging this with their livestock. I mean, look at our disease rates. Jeff, continue going over all of this for people, where you left off when we went to break.
Sure, and I'll talk about that toxin-producing corn, because there's a new study out that came out last week, which has very big implications for humans, as well as the possibility for linking GMOs to autism. But getting back to our pig discussion, it turns out that this farmer worked as the person among his brothers. He was the one in charge of the nursery. And for years, his brothers would kind of rile him because that was the easiest job. There was never any problem. But 14 years ago, things got completely out of hand. And the pigs started getting sick, and their behavior changed. And that's when they started introducing genetically engineered corn. But they didn't realize that the corn was the problem, because at the same time, there were new confined animal feeding operations introduced into the area, and new pigs imported from Canada and elsewhere. So they just blamed it on the new type of pig. But now, when they switched for the first time in 14 years to non-GMO corn, they started seeing the pig behavior and health that they had seen prior to the introduction of GMOs. And he was so excited. He said even the animals would look like they're playing and happy, and when they left the nursery, they'd still be playing, whereas when they were on the GM corn for 14 years, when they walked in, they'd be agitated, but then they'd get too tired and just lie down. They said the whole level of sickness is less, and he's going to document the changes because he has all the details from
Now, is this BT corn? Because, I mean, there's different types with bacteria, with funguses, sometimes thousands of times stronger. But they say because it's a natural thing that we just soup up and have it grow, this way the bugs don't eat it, but it's safe for you to eat. I mean, that's a no-brainer. No wonder organ failure in these studies is off the chart. I mean, this is ridiculous.
When I heard the story about his pigs, it reminded me of a veterinarian I interviewed a month earlier. He talked about a South African farm where some of the pigs were dying and becoming cannibalistic on the GM corn, biting each other's ears and tails. He said for some, they acted like they had Alzheimer's, and they wandered around the pen, couldn't figure out where the food was, and died. All of that reversed when they switched to non-GM corn. Now, this behavior of being agitated and antisocial, it was also discovered in rats that were fed GM corn compared to non-GM corn. For those that were eating the non-GM corn, you can pick them up, put them on the shoulder, pet them like a pet. However, those that were eating the GM corn, they were running around scared, not involved with other animals, and they were completely agitated and anxious. This was also seen in rats fed genetically modified soy by Russian Academy of Sciences researcher Irina Ermakova. Even an undergraduate student in Holland, when he did a study on mice, found that the mice that were raised on genetically modified soy and corn were totally agitated and completely fearful, where the other ones acted like mice.
President Obama this week signed into law a bill that could have huge consequences on the future of food in the country. The Agricultural Appropriations Bill has been dubbed the Monsanto Protection Act by critics of the agricultural giant. That's because a provision in the law protects genetically modified seed patents from litigation over health risks. So if you get sick, too bad, you can't take it to court. Since being signed into law Tuesday, more than 250,000 people have signed a petition to President Obama. It says the law, quote, is unnecessary and an unprecedented attack on U.S. judicial review. Congress should not be meddling with the judicial review process based solely on the special interest of a handful of companies. Beyond what's in the bill, critics are angry about how it was passed, snuck into a huge agricultural bill without review by a committee. The law only remains in effect for 6 months, but opponents say this is an example of giant corporations trumping the health and safety rights of the average Joe. And that's not the only food news turning stomachs. The FDA is on its way to approving so-called Frankenfish. RT's Margaret Howell has more.
A genetically modified fish with spare parts is inches away from our food supply chain. The FDA is giving General Electric the go-ahead on an application that's been pending now for 2 years. Just what is this so-called Frankenfish anyway? Well, it's the biotech industry's genetically engineered fish that grows twice that of the normal rate of a real fish.